So the Bounty Hunter is one of the new upgrades in the Desperado. It's the middle path tier 4, and it gives a bit of a buff. So I decided I'm going to try to take this old Archmage OC combo, but just replacing the overclock with Bounty Hunter, seeing kind of like playing around with it, what it's like good at. And this run definitely gave me a lot of information. So for reference, that old setup that I think I've done before, if not like I've played around it once before, it gets around like 54,000 cash for somewhere around 50,000 more so probably now with some of the nerfs, but it's good. And overclock is definitely a good tower to use with it, and I just kind of wanted to look at like what's the case uses of these buffs and seeing if I could get any cash spare by using the Bounty Hunter with some of these upgrades. So it's going to be a really cool run, and there's definitely some good insights, and I'll kind of discuss about it later on. So I'm starting off this early game by going into the Arcane Magistery. That's tier 3 of the wizard on the top path, and it's actually really good for the early game. It can build up well into the tier 4. It just needs a little bit help from like round 30, not 31, like 35 to until you get the Arcane Spike kind of in the mid to late 40s. So just a little bit of help there, and it works out pretty well. I got the bottom cross path with this one for the range to be able to cover those other lanes. I believe I was doing like middle cross path before, but it seems like it's going to be doing really well here because I'm going to get that range to cover the entire track, which will be able to do really good with the Bounty Hunter upgrade. And then also on top of that, it's going to be able to take out the DDTs a lot better. More so I got it just because I bought that and I ended up rolling with it. The middle path did get some nerfs. I think generally still it's a little bit better, so maybe this would have worked out a bit better if I had that, but that inherent camo and be able to take out the DDTs was pretty useful considering the parameters of this run. Plus it also will allow me to be able to beat 100 with just one first strike, which is pretty interesting because you'll see that's a cool thing that the Bounty Hunter can do. So anyways, moving on, the big thing that I noticed about the Bounty Hunter as like a good support tower is that I actually can do really good damage in the mid game. Like a lot of times you'll have setups where you're going to need something just to take out Moabs a little bit, and if you can get your support towers that you're going to get later on to be able to deal with your mid game damage, that's going to be pretty good. But normally like a Moab glue and a Moab press, it doesn't really do a lot. Like you can use it, but it's not effective and you'll end up getting in a bad situation. But this Bounty Hunter is like actually really good at single target damage. So I just had this guy cruising my way through. I could get that arcane Arcane Spike and then Archmage just fine. So it's actually really effective in your mid game. So you can simply get it in your mid game. It can also help out because you'll be getting the buff by the mid game too if you have it to be able to take out those Moabs, which is something that the overclock really can't do that well. Like it will be able to buff the towers if you get it early, but the tower itself isn't doing damage, and if you're still saving up, you only have like a weaker tier 4. It's just not as effective. So that's actually a really neat perk that this guy has. Plus you'll then be getting that buff which will grant a lot more range. It can also kind of give it camo, and then I think it's like it will allow it to pop blacks and purples. I don't know if it's lead. I just looked it up. It is not lead. That would be kind of busted if it was lead too. A new MIB skip, but it's black, purples, whites, and it also gives 50% range, which is a big deal. And on top of that, you'll get the camo too, and 80% less like spread when the towers attack, which is really weird. There isn't a tower I think that does that, but that could be good for some towers, but it also could be bad for some towers, which is a really interesting thing to think about if you're going to be using this guy. So for example, if you have like a destroyer, its grapes will shoot out in a little bit of a spread, but if you use the 80% concentration with the Bounty Hunter upgrade on it, that's going to go down to like more so like a straight line, which means its damage is going to be a lot more concentrated. That could be really good if you're trying to get damage out on a single target, but that also means that the balloons around it are a lot less likely to get affected, which makes its consistency a lot worse than it would be if there was kind of a small spread of the grapes around. And most of the time, if you're using destroyers, it's going to be for cleanup of like ceramics and Moabs kind of later on, and they're usually going to be a little bit farther away from the track, not directly like on the track, because it's a water tower, which makes the consistency bad, meaning that you could just die to some bullshit RNG type thing even though you have like more concentrated damage. On the other hand, you could use it on a tower to get that concentrated damage, even if it's like still the same tower like a destroyer. So it's going to be able to put all the damage from all the grapes onto one single target, and you can kill it faster and like win. So it's a mixed bag. It's kind of just a really weird thing. Consistency of a tower, particularly its projectiles and attacks, is something that's not really talked about and not really understood properly. Like, a lot of the really good players know about it, so they can work around some of these things, but it's just a really weird thing. And if you don't understand that, that's completely normal, I guess. It's just something really strange to think about if you're going to be using this tower. And because this is the first time I think a tower has the ability to decrease the spread that like in normal game, I think there's stuff in like Rogue Legends that does that before that, so I guess it's something that people really haven't ever thought about in the first place. So anyways, I'm going to be continuing on this game. So another thing that you'll obviously see is, because that damage, I'm able to work around and get some towers that normally I wouldn't be able to get, because these are only things that you get from like having a dedicated mid-game carry. But as this is a support tower that kind of does that mid-game carry too, which is really nice, it won't fall off, and I can get some funky combinations like Absolute Zero here, which will be able to wreck these UMGs, slow down a lot of stuff, clean up a lot with its giant radius to slow down ceramics, and it also can put a stop to DDTs pretty well. Actually, Absolute Zero isn't that good against DDTs, well, all the DDT rounds besides 95, but our Archmage is going to be able to clean up the rest of 95. So for example, it's really going to put a stop to 99, which is pretty cool. And I'm going to be continuing on once more. So the other big thing, I guess, because this is comparing it to Overclock, in a black border you'd actually have money for both of these. So if you're having a tower that just like will benefit a lot from getting this range, and I guess that concentration of the spread, then I guess it might be a good buy. If you aren't really going to be benefiting from like the range too much and having your strategy altered up with the mid game, because I think that's really the two big things that it's good at, really helping you out with your mid game whilst providing strong support and giving extra range. The other things are just not like the greatest thing in the world, especially when you could spend it on something like an Overclock, which is, I guess I'm comparing it to, which gives the attack speed that's a direct damage increase, which could really help out a lot. So it's not like gonna be the new meta support, I'd say, but it's something to keep in mind. And the tier 3 also gives like a 25% range buff. It's a lot cheaper, so that's something you could keep in mind, especially on round 100. If you have a tower that has a lot of single target damage but a small range, you can give it a 25% range buff, and that might be able to help you out a bit. But other than that, I think it's a pretty niche tower that will get its uses in, but it can be pretty good under very specific circumstances. In this case, for this run, I'm finishing it up here on 96, and all these like ZUMGs are going down. The range is actually kind of helping a bit, but overall, honestly, I think having the Overclock would be better, even though I can pull off some cool things like getting the Absolute Zero with Archmage, even though I wouldn't be able to do that with Overclock. Just having 66% more attack speed for a good chunk of the time really would help out. So much so that on round 96 here, I was forced to get another press because like some fortified Moabs were coming, and even though it has full range, if there were enough of them staggered in like a conga line kind of thing where one just keeps coming after the other, I wouldn't be able to take it down because I didn't have that attack speed. The other rounds, like 99, just went down because I had the Absolute Zero. That thing was able to wreck it. And then, of course, on round 100, it helps a lot on round 100. That's kind of the last big thing. It gave me the range to be able to beat this without anything, and also the tier 4 does some good damage too, so that was doing the rest of it. But yeah, 42k spare, not quite as good as OC, but still cool. Thanks for watching. If you want to help out the channel, you can check out these new videos, like and subscribe for more content, support the channel by becoming a member, and joining the Discord to chat with the community. Bye!